Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Friday forecast. 15 minutes late. Just testing you. It's the Astro Weather. Look who's here. Little Miss Sunshine. Little Miss Sunshine. So I went on record the other day saying, you know what? My cats aren't jerks. But then I failed to realize that I do have a true cat amongst the two cats. And you know that true cat is Little Miss Sunshine. And well, she's gone on a bit of a scratching tour of the house, haven't you? You know, I've got this thing about white cats. And for all you white cat owners out there, please don't take this personally, but I think white cats are evil. They're kind of evil. That's my take on white cats. And Peachy, as you've noticed, has a lot of white in her. And there are times where I think that white devil cat part kicks in and takes over. And then she's got, the calico, the ginger calico. And the ginger calico is, warm and loving, just like Jasper. And then the white cat kicks in. Isn't that right, Peaches? All right. How's our tornado girls doing? How are people doing? I haven't looked at the news this morning, but there was a lot of trouble brewing in Tennessee last night. How's everybody doing down there in the South? All right. Let's see who we got in the house. There's my man, DJ MC. D-Mac. That's my new nickname for Dorian McLean. D-Mac. What's up, D-Mac? Misbehaving too. Soul Traveler. All right. That's what we're looking for right there. Morning, y'all. I survived the storms. Okay. I hope that's across the board for many of you people that were in harm's way. Kelly B., our global traveler. Ryan, the president of the International Introspective Woodworkers of the World. They keep trying to overthrow Ryan. There's a faction inside the Woodworkers Union that want to be more extroverted, and they're making their voices heard. But Ryan is doing an amazing job of rallying the introspective woodworkers and silencing the dissent inside of the union. And really, what he's doing is he's just like focus on the work. Focus on the work. Don't get caught up in all the need, like this overwhelming need to be recognized as a woodworker. Let your work speak for itself. I'm with you on that, Ryan. Jackie Delario's here. There she is, the Queen of Speed, Nora Rashid, Green Eyed Crow, Sue Leonard, Road Trip 1981, in the house. Laura E., the steamy South. Yeah, it's pretty steamy here too. It's hot and muggy. Welcome to hot and muggy summer. Warlanda. Here's to you, Warlanda. Coffee in the house. Are you working on that brew? The Warlanda brew. There she is, the lovely and talented one. Joan S. Putting some muscle and love in people's mouths today. It sounded a little weird, but I think you know what I'm saying. It takes a lot of strength to get in there and be a dentist. Seriously. Those teeth don't want to come out. You're in a cage match in somebody's mouth trying to extract a tooth. PMSO, what's happening, Janine? Binka Feliz. Lynn, what's shaking? California Contrarian in Astrology, what sign covers the cat's tail? Oh, that's a good question. It's got to be Scorpio. Let's see. Kathy Sobchak's here. What's happening? Lots of content yesterday. That's right. Astro Dads last night, I thought it went really, really well. Although, I am critical of my performance. And I felt like I was low energy on Astro Dads last night. And I have to amp up and ramp up the energy a bit there. Curtis Moonflower, iced coffee in the fragrant Arizona desert. Love it. 76 in South Texas. I'm telling you, man, right here in Central, you got to take those claws and back off a little bit. Lady Lou, what's happening, Lady Lou? Astro Dads is on deck. I loved what Ferris was bringing to the table, and when we go into Gemini, so I don't have any siblings, and unironically, my son has no siblings either. Ferris, however, has siblings, and he's expecting his third child, I believe, in August. Going to be a little Leo. So when we get into Gemini and talk about siblings, I'm going to lean on him because I don't have any anything about siblings to me is going to be all speculative and based on astrology. So we'll get the boots on the ground perspective. Mary Lee liked it. Dave Sullivan's here. What's happening, Dave? Laura E. Did we mention Laura E already? Kabuki Theater. Hey, Bo. We got Bo and Bowie. Not quite, but Harry Bowie. Hey. Esperanza Vents Tarot. Somebody dropped out of there. I don't know what happened. Susie G. Queen of Hearts is here. Brandy Herrera. I missed it drinking with my cousin. Forgot it was on. Sometimes you just got to drink with the old cousin and wash away the tears of time. Let's see. At Warlanda, I'm excited to watch the rest of your show. Good. I'm glad you guys are catching up on Warlanda's content. It's quality. Misbehaving too. In the house, there's my guy, Tommy Jordan. Tommy Jordan going to be a Texan one of these days. Got to get him a cowboy hat. Let's see who else we have here. Kelly, hey, I'm newish here. What days doesn't he come on? Okay, Kelly. I will answer that question. Saturday, Monday. Although one Saturday a month we will do Astro Dads. Let's see who else. Lynette Jardine, Mad Maxine, she's with us. Zoracle Dax. What's happening, Zoe? Zodi. Let's see who else we have here. Peachy Queen. You don't need to inflate her expanding ego anymore. Big solar flares from the sun. Seems to be the case, right? I think that there's some correlation between solar flares and madness. That's what I think. People be losing their shit. Claire is here. Hi, Claire. Rainbows and butterflies. Let's see. Who else? Did I miss anybody? Amy Gill. Meowgical Catacorn. Coming in from the DFW. What's happening? Moon Sprout. We got Kelly S. Good morning from the gray, muggy San Leon. Had to look at the map to remember where I woke up today. I've had moments like that. Where the fuck am I? Oh, yeah. How did I get here? Let's see. Astro Dads rocked it. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. That's okay, Rob. We can't always be our best. I feel like that today, Scorpio rising, buddy. Well, thanks, Claire. Yeah, being a Virgo, I can be pretty self-critical. Shirley Losciavo, what's up, Shirley? What's happening with that bridge out there? Are they getting it together? Melissa Stanton, Florida in the house. Okay, I think we're good to go. I think everybody who's here is here. Oh, shout out to Terry Catterley and Whitney Palm and Hanging Laundry. Okay, we're all caught up. Cool. 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 All right, let's get into just a little bit of housekeeping before we jump into the weather. Hit the like, hit subscribe. We're up to 14,148 subscribers. I love it. Been doing this since 2010, 14 years. Basically, I get 1,000 new subscribers every year. That's growth. So hit the like, hit subscribe. If you want to buy me a coffee, that is in there. And thank you for all you coffee buyers, every single one of you. My last sip is to you. Sip of the day. So that's there. What else? One other housekeeping update. I believe we will have a newsletter going out, I think this weekend. And a number of you have been alerted about my change in service with PayPal. And as a result of that, everything is changing. So I'm going to be moving the monthly operation to locals. I spoke with Emily yesterday at length, and she's got a locals page, and it sounds like it'll be a perfect fit for what we want to do. And it'll allow me to run webinars for people that do subscribe. So if you have been unceremoniously cut off from being able to contribute to the show and all the other things that are part of this, you can sign right back up again. And we're going to be building up the locals side of the 11th house. And it'll be good. It'll be really good. I think so. We'll have a bit more of a place to hang out. I will be distributing some more content there. And some of it, I haven't written a lot in a long time. And I think that I'll have some in front of the paywall articles and pieces that I'll post there. But I'll have some stuff behind the paywall. So you guys will get some exclusive content. And again, we'll have it's going to be a once a month, basically 2 to 2.5 hour get together. And some of it is just sort of town square and we talk. And some of it is going to be really astrologically related. And I'll spend a lot of time breaking something down. And we just did a Jupiter and Gemini webinar this last weekend, which I thought went really, really well. And I haven't even shared a lot of that information with the general public. And that's in deference to the people that do spend some extra hard-earned income to support the channel and support what I'm doing. So, and thank you for that always. All right. Housekeeping out of the way. Let's get into it. My, oh my. My, oh my. What a crazy world we're living in here. Crazy time. So the moon, of course, is new. We knew that. Hey, I got my haircut on the new moon. And it was timely. It was a timely cut, new moon cut. And I hope that some of you were able to become a bit more focused and plant some new intentions, start some new patterns. I hate to use the word habit because habit always seems derogatory in some level, doesn't it? Because it's always related to like drug habit and habituation. But I think there's healthy habits. There are healthy habits. So yesterday was a day, if you were so inclined, to do some initiate some healthy habits. And I hope everybody was mindful and aware of the whole process. Well, the moon has shifted. It's in chatty Gemini. So everybody's talking about how they're feeling today. Chitty chatty, chitty chatty. So a lot of communication going on. And with communication, it's always interesting sorting through we are living in a time where there is so much information. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, this guy, Steve Albini, died. Now, there are some of you out there who are music aficionados and who grew up during a certain period of time where Steve Albini played a very important role in your life because he was a producer and he was in a band called Big Black. I think his claim to fame was he produced the Pixies records and In Utero by Nirvana. Like those were sort of his water, but there's a lot of other bands like Jawbreaker. And anyway, he died yesterday at the age of 61, had a heart attack. And I was really surprised at how much fanfare there was for Steve Albini. Honestly, I knew he was a producer. I listened to Big Black, and it's like it was just not my thing. It's not my thing. There was something about the music that was really negative. It was just, and that doesn't mean I don't like noisy music. I don't mind noisy music. It doesn't mean I don't like turgid music. I don't mind some turgid music, but it just felt negative and dark. And so I'm like, I just wrote the guy off, like not my thing. But apparently he was quite a thing to a lot of people. And he was a total mask and COVID Nazi, right? There was a guy who did an interview with him, and he was wearing 2 masks at the studio when he went to go interview him. And then he was, of course, one of these very vocal proponents of people that just wanted to go about and live their life. And it's amazing how the chickens have come home to roost with a lot of these people. Unfortunately, they're not around for us to say, told you so, motherfucker. You should have just left us alone. Oh, I'm sorry. We can't tell you that because you're not here. Maybe you should have listened to us instead of being so judgmental. And it's really interesting. Again, we'll bring it back to astrology with this moon in Gemini. Let's talk about the Cuomos, the Cuomosexuals. Because they're brothers, right? And we're in Gemini territory when we talk about brothers. Both of them, it was like a two-pronged attack, against Americans with the vaccine. And they were, and especially Andrew. He was insufferable. He was like Caesar. The guy didn't he win a fucking like Grammy or Emmy or Oscar? He won some weird little trophy for his wanton participation in slaughter of elderly people in the state of New York. That's exactly what happened. And guess what? Now he's coming out and he's saying, well, those rules and those mandates, they weren't really legal. Well, fuck you. I'm sorry. You were the loudest voice in the room. And now you're coming back. And now you're telling us that, well, it wasn't really legal. There's a special place in hell for these people. I'm telling you right now. a special place. And then the brother, uh, he's like, "Well, I think I'm vaccine injured." So both of these clowns are now you're starting to see this. The AstraZeneca stuff came out, right? They're like, "We don't want any part of this." So the COVID bugaboo and the vaccines and all that stuff is in the air. Pay attention to that today. With this moon in Gemini, there's going to be a lot of chatter about it. A lot of chatter. And so, well, why is that? Well, it's moving into square with Saturn. What is Saturn? Saturn's the authority. Saturn is the doctor. You really need to get that COVID shot and wear that mask before you come into the hospital. It's going to be an interesting day. It is going to be a very interesting day as people try to vent and offload their emotions. Just watch. Just watch how people flip their script. Oh my God. The only thing that will keep you from reaching through your computer screen and trying to strangle them is the laughter at how completely idiotic it is. If you go back in time, and I know a lot of you were there, for some of you who are new to the show, if you go back in time and you look at what was happening in 2020, a lot of my content was dedicated to uh, supporting people to not go there. From day one, we were. I feel like there are a lot of other people out there. Like David is on the record, and he was a very strong proponent of not getting the spike. Right? So hats off to David, and he lost a lot of listeners and people during that time. So he was kind of, and I really wasn't aware of what David was doing because our worlds were sort of parallel but not connected. Later on, I would find out that that's exactly what he'd been doing. There's a few other people, I think off the top of my head, not in the astrological community, but I think Anomaly was on the record and he was kind of out front. He was somebody that was clearly not going to put up with the insanity. But every single day, we were talking about it, and I was bringing up the madness from places like Australia and Canada and New Zealand, in Europe, and even the U.S. And we dug our heels in, and we were backing it up with people that had a great deal of insight into the medical side of things. So it wasn't just like, we were just crybabies and stomping our heels and saying, "No, we don't want to take the vax." No, we had the best available science or alternative science that we could find. And we made a stand. We made a stand. And it was one of those things. It was just like, it was okay, here you go. Put your combat boots on. And this is it. This is the fight. This is the front line of freedom, and you're in for the fight of your life. And here we are, right? It's 2024, 4 years removed, and we're kind of, we're kind of in that place. If you look at when all this started, it was March 13th. Actually, it was March 11th, 3/11. And it got codified on March 13th. So if we went back to 2020, we'd be roughly March, April, May, 2 months into this thing. 2 months, and that would have been basically 6 weeks after 2 weeks to stop the spread. And it just feels to me like a lot of the communication is going to be centered around The jab. Sorry, the communication's gonna. I'm not sorry. I'm telling that to the ears of the algorithm that's listening to this. It's going to be, I think, in terms of offloading your emotional weight, or not yours, but other people. You may be fine, and hallelujah, right? But for other people, watching them try to divest themselves, and then do everything in their power to flip their script or change their position. It's like, what? I mean, the whole thing with the Cuomos, again, channeling a bit of the Gemini spirit here, is that it just feels like gaslighting. And it also, it also feels like, you know, they lick the finger and they sort of test where the winds are going. It was like the neocons back in the late 60s. The neocons were neoliberals. They were Bolsheviks. That's who they were. And they supported radical socialist, Marxist ideology. And then they realized that the power was moving to the right, and uh their leader was a guy by the name of Scoop Jackson, Henry Scoop Jackson. He was the first of the neocons, and they fell in behind him. They're like, "Oh, good. Here's our leader. We're going to espouse this ideology." So they flipped their script. And then went like this. And went, where's the political winds blowing? Oh, yeah, we're going with the power. And that's exactly what these guys are doing. They're going with the power because they know that the Biden power, the Democratic power, is seriously in doubt and in question. And it's not just Biden, but it's also what's going on with Israel and the colleges and the divestment. And they're looking at it, well, geez, this is not going well for a lot of these students, a lot of these people. We can feel the political winds change, and that's exactly what they're doing. So what they're trying to do is make amends and admit to the sins of not their past, but the past. Like Cuomo will never come out and apologize for everything that he did, because if he did, he'd be in jail for the wanton murder of thousands of parents and grandparents and great grandparents. So they'll go about it different. It's very Gemini. It'll be a very indirect way of basically saying I fucked up, but I didn't fuck up. So there's gonna be a lot of that. Look, like, just watch the script flippers today. Watch the script flippers. It may even happen in your own life. You may have somebody in your own life just all of a sudden cop to this other position like nothing ever really happened. You're like, huh? What? Are you kidding me? You were the one that didn't want me to come over for Thanksgiving because I wouldn't wear a mask in between bites. And now all of a sudden you've got this whole other, like, it never happened. This is going to be a very interesting phenomenon. It's not going to be like the Mandela effect, but you're going to see a bunch of people act like it never fucking happened. But if they do admit that it happened, it'll be some weird roundabout way because the receipts are coming in and they're not good receipts. Now, we do have this Moon Pluto trine, which is good. I like the Moon Pluto trine. And that helps you become more steadfast with how you deal with this emotionally. And it feels to me like with the Moon Pluto trine, number one, the moon is the moon. No matter what sign it's the moon. So Moon Pluto trine has a lot to do with the sustenance of values. right? The moon is all about values. It's all about emotional values. That's the core of the moon. So when you get a moon Pluto trine, it's easy to tap into that. You just lean into it. Right? You just lean into that. You go, yeah, I support these things. I support uh, our family. I support traditions. I support the things that give us cohesion in our lives. You know, the family reunion or the get together or the gathering, right? And it's really interesting how a lot of these organic things that we would celebrate. And by the way, I come from I don't even really know about that, to be honest with you, because I'm an, quote unquote only child, right? And and I just had a weird family. It's split halfway across the country. So my mother's relatives were in New Jersey and my father's relatives were in California. And we didn't spend a lot of time with the New Jersey relatives, although I knew who they were and I still do. Um, and then on my father's side, that's where I spent a lot of the sort of family time. But then, yeah, but these people were, I don't know, they were odd. They were very odd, and not people that I would necessarily want to hang out with. Although since they were family, you kind of did it, but they're all gone now. They're either dead or scattered to the winds, right? So I don't really have like you. Really, you're my family, and it's always kind of been that way. You guys are my family. Chet Taria is my family. So we have our family get together, and it's once a year in October, and then we meet every morning for coffee, right? Even though we're all kind of in this virtual family together. But these are the values, right? With the moon Pluto trine that you adhere to and you lean into and you reaffirm. So the other thing about this moon Pluto trine, we'll take it out of the value section and we'll keep it in the value section, but we'll expand it a little bit. And it has to do with resources. And that's what we were talking about the other day. And today's one of those days where if you make some fast moves with your resources, you might be able to level up a little bit. By the way, just want to point out that Shirley in chat is she's a financial advisor. She works for a company, and I've talked to her about some things in the past. So if you have any questions about some of the things I'm talking about, we got somebody in chat right there who might be able to answer them for you, and she might be able to provide you with some very interesting solutions or alternatives to what you can do with your capital. See how I did that? Gemini, family, Chataria, virtual. But that's what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. So the moon in Gemini is fast, it's agile. If you link it up with Pluto, you can make some quick moves. But the square of Saturn, you'll see these other people with their feet in cement trying to recreate the past and tell you all along that I was there for it. I was supportive of you. Let's see what else we have here. Mercury's getting closer to that Pluto square. That is going to be really interesting as it ramps up into Taurus. Boy, talk about intractable. And this whole, I was on Twitter last night and I was looking at some of the footage from Gaza with these kids, these babies. It's just horrific. It's horrific. And apparently the Biden administration is getting the heat because they are finally realizing that the majority of their base does not want them to support this. So Biden has said that he is going to, whoever Biden is, that they're not going to provide Israel with any further ammunition or missiles or bombs to go in and destroy Rafah. Like that's on the record. And you should see the response from the other side. talk about indignant. I'm going to play a clip of Israel's Minister of War and the emotional blackmail that is taking place. She's furious. She's furious that the United States will not provide them with precision weapons. And she said, well, fine. Instead of, having a bomb or a missile that will be exact in its targeting, we'll just use the other stuff. We'll just use the other stuff that's not as precise. And you'll have to live with that. The blood will be on your hands. Your hands. You gotta be fucking kidding me. So this is going to be a hotly contested. I'm telling you, man, this is and people are going to say things that they are not going to be able to walk back. Like, the Cuomos are trying to, slink back into, their away from their past. We understand I've got COVID. I'm vaccine damaged now. Too late. Too bad. Live with it. Go visit one of your esteemed doctors. But this Mercury, so there's this guy, I'm going to talk about it over on 15 a bit more. This weird thing came out with RFK2 yesterday. And he was talking about how he had a worm in his brain. And the worm ate part of his brain. And then the worm died in his brain. Like, this came out, but it wouldn't impede him from his duties as president. It's an incredibly bizarre story. It's kind of a Mercury Chiron conjunction story, right? Like, he's like admitting something about his brain, right? And Mercury rules the brain and Aries is the head, and Chiron is the infection in the brain. Like, how did he get the damn worm in his brain? So there's this guy he's a congressman, I believe, and he had this tweet, and it was the most, and he's a Republican, and it's the most distasteful tweet I've ever seen. And he's referencing his uncle with a bullet in the head, and how RFK2 had a worm in the head, and he's trying to make this weird connection. And I was like, okay, you can't walk that back, dude. You can't walk that back. Even with Mercury and Aries square Pluto, yeah, you shot your mouth off. You can't walk it back. It is probably like, he's not doing the Republicans any favor. Trust me. They're all puffed up. They're all puffed up thinking, okay, well, I'm on the right side of history. We got these Muslim heathens, these terrorists, and we're going to go in there and we're going to wipe them all out. And we got God on our side. We got the Bible on our side. We got Trump on our side. History's on our side. I can say any fucking thing I want. Well, guess what? That's not entirely true. And that, that even applies to our own lives, right? So be conscious and aware of the things that you say, because there are going to be things that you say that you may not be able to walk back. Now, in Aries, we have a lot of this cardinality, and we have Chiron there, which is good because it makes us aware of what we're about to say. You go to the other side of the sign, and it's in Libra, so you put your Libra pants on, and you ask yourself, well, how is this individual going to respond or receive what I'm saying? Without completely diluting my point of view, let me be a bit more inclusive. I hate that word, but I'll use it. Let me adjust for this person's potential reactionary space. So there's nothing wrong with that, because there's an art to getting your point across and winning a point without demolishing the other person and putting them under your thumb and just squeezing on them like a bug. It's a much more nuanced application of communication. And really good communicators can do it. They can do it. And guess what happens? It's kind of a win-win. And we're closer together. Now, you may concede a point as well. That's the other side of it. You may say, you know what? I wasn't right about this. That's interesting. Thanks for bringing it up. And then you get to play the other side. Now, let me think about that. I had an experience like that with Chris Knowles over on Twitter. And I was talking about Stormy Daniels, and I was talking about her supposed Nexium brand, sort of somewhere between her belly button and her coochie. And then Chris Knowles said her. And I thought, I never considered that Stormy might be a dude or a tranny. I never considered it. And that was me. Like, wow, I never considered that. I just assumed because she, looked like a kind of tawdry silicone, uh, MK Ultra thing, that she was a she. So I had to reconsider. Oh, maybe she isn't a she, right? Okay. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, instead of like, well, she's a woman, right? It's like, you know what? I never thought about that, and I didn't. And then, so there is this latitude there with Mercury and Chiron, and it allows us to be clear and direct, but it also allows us to be fluid and not always have to dig our heels in and try to double down and triple down our position because we said something that just might not be patently true. And I'm not even saying that Stormy Daniels is a he or she, but I'd never considered it. That's what I'm talking about. So it's going to be more challenging when Mercury creeps closer and closer to Pluto. You're not walking it back. The things that are said will be said. And to some degree, it will be shocking. Here's the other thing, because again, we're starting to move into this Gemini energy. By the time Mercury goes into Taurus, we'll be super close to Jupiter being in Gemini, and if not exact. So the other component of this, or the other side of this, can also be a part of the discussion. Meaning that there could be people who could say something that could be theoretically construed as, well, for us, positive. It's like, oh, look at what this person's saying. They're understanding a different point of view, or they're having a different. And I'm not even talking about the Cuomos, because that just seems all like fake and strategic. But it would be people that would be theoretically on the other side, right? And they would come out and say something, and then the other side would excommunicate them. How dare you? How dare you take that position? And in that case, it may be a good thing. It may be a good thing. With that Mercury-Pluto square, if you want to burn down your past, because it's a past that's worth burning down, do it. Do it. Let me end with this today. There is, I think, with this moon in Gemini, as it moves and cycles through this process, this phase, the downtime between feeling and action is very minimal. Very, very minimal. So the idea is to process things quickly and act quickly. Now, I didn't say speak quickly, but act quickly. Know what you know and act on it, right? And you don't even have to talk a lot about it. Well, I'm going to do this. 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 No, just do it. Just do it. That's all you got to do. All right. We're running way behind today because yours truly was tardy. So let's get into our True Hemp Science Star of the Day. And I'll try to facilitate this as quickly as possible. And the sole sponsor, although I have to say, I have a client who has an amazing cleaning product that is based on the best boron that you can find, the cleanest boron that you can find. So you can use it for your laundry, you can use it for all sorts of stuff. And I would love to somehow incorporate her as a sponsor of the show in some ways. Maybe one of these days I'll just have her on as a guest, and then you guys can hear her story. It's a really, really inspiring story about how she's just an entrepreneur and sticking to her guns. So anyway, until that day happens, it's our guy Chris and truehempscience.com. It is money well spent. I know that your dollars are tight and everybody's looking for the most bang for their buck. I'm going to tell you right now on the health tip, it's going to be CBD. And it does so many things for your body and your spirit. It gives you a reset. If you do it enough, it will help you reset a lot of the internal processes that your body's involved with. Think about an intelligent hydration. That's how CBD works. And there's a lot of CBD products over on True Hemp Science, including products that will, how shall we say, positively alter your mood. And all you got to do is type in 15MINS, 15MINS, and you will get a free goodie bag. So you get to explore more of their product when you get your product. And $150 or more get you free shipping and always a 30-day money-back guarantee. All right, let's get into our True Hemp Science Star of the Day. It's your personal Jesus, Dave Gahan, the lead singer of Depeche Mode. Before I jump into this, it was interesting because yesterday we did Keith Jarrett, and Keith Jarrett was born in Allentown. And I talked about Allentown and Billy Joel. And then lo and behold, today is Billy Joel's birthday. He's not born in Allentown, though. And I almost said Billy Joel, but I think Dave Gahan's chart is much more illustrative of Dave's challenges, which for the most part is drug addiction. Right? Like Dave Gahan has, when he lived in LA, his nickname was the Cat because of the amount of times that the first responders had to resuscitate him. Seriously, Dave had a absolutely serious drug habit, mostly speed, meth, and heroin. When he was a kid, he was a delinquent. He got into a lot of trouble. He got kicked out of school. He was a bad child. But a lot of it has to do with his upbringing. You know, that Saturn, Neptune square. Saturn is the father, and the South Node conjunct Saturn. He's got a weird family story. His father is Sri Lankan. So that's why Dave looks a little at times exotic or melanated, right? He's got kind of the sort of that different hair that you see that, that it's almost and I don't want to be sort of a eugenicist or anything, but Asians have dark hair and they usually have a lot of it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right. So he's kind of got that gene going on. His mother, of course, is English. So she marries a Sri Lankan guy. Dave comes in, and then when he's young, they split up and leave. She remarries and marries some guy that is in the oil industry. They have some more kids. Dave's got some sister, some other siblings. And then the oil guy dies. But Dave thought that the oil guy was his father. Like that was his father because he was too young to really remember his original father. But then the original father comes back into the scene. after the old father died, or the new father, the oil father dies. But when he comes back, he's kind of introduced as Dave's uncle. But then Dave finds out later that he's his real dad, and I think it just like screwed with his head. And he talks about having ADD, and you can see all of his Gemini planets down here, right? And then the square with Jupiter. Of course, he has ADD. Are you kidding me? And when we think about Pisces, we think about drugs, and we think about potentially addiction. And he's got a Chiron Jupiter conjunction. And what is it doing? Opposing Pluto. Pluto squaring all of his Gemini planets. Like this is a T square that's a mess. It's a mess. And this is a guy who has battled with addiction most of his life. And I think a lot of it has to do with this afflicted relationship with Saturn and the Neptune square. Double Taurus. And he's got that Taurus voice, doesn't he? He's got that deep voice. Mars in Aries in the 12th house, squaring the moon. His mother is probably the one constant in his life with the moon in Cancer. But this is a guy that's got a temper. And he's got this intercepted house with Mars here. Dave Gahan has some demons. This dude's lucky to be alive. And it must have to do with Pluto in his chart. And in Virgo, right? And being sort of, I don't know, resuscitated and resurrected. And even that Saturn, right, in the 11th house, it's like, what is the father with Saturn in the 11th house? It's almost like he has this weird extended family relationship with his fake father, but also in the real father, but also he has trines to Saturn with his Mercury planets. I'm sorry, Gemini planets, Mercury, Venus, trining Saturn. So he has staying power. I mean, that's the other side of Dave Gahan is the staying power. And I think it's interesting that he wrote, but I don't think he wrote Personal Jesus, honestly, but he did sing it. And I could see, the import of that song, the power and the import of that song, especially with Neptune in the 7th house. Like, if you're going to be in a relationship with me, I'll be your personal Jesus. Neptune, of course, is ruled by Pisces, which is often associated with the fisherman and the scapegoat. And you can see why Personal Jesus was, I think, a big song for Dave Gahan. Of course, there's other songs, right? With my best friend, best friend, let me down again. Saturn in the 11th house. I actually like that song. I am not a huge Depeche Mode fan, by the way. Although I do like some of their songs. And I like the first record. And I just can't get enough. I think that's really Dave Gahan's personal manifesto and theme. I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough. All those Jupiter squares and the square with Pluto, Dave Gahan couldn't get it. And, this guy's got some angels. He clearly has some angels. And he even talks about having a near-death experience. Like, he was outside of his body, and it was dark and cold and very alienating. And he realized, I've done something I shouldn't have done. Those are his words. And then they bring him back to life. And as soon as they resuscitate him, they put the cuffs on him. And again, that's at Mars. I'm surprised. And he flirted with, like, he was in kind of reform school when he was a youth growing up. It's amazing how this guy has managed to stay out of prison. I guess you could look at rehab as a very 12th house experience, and he's been there plenty of times. Might have one of the most recognizable voices of the post-punk new wave era. Your True Hemp Science star of the day, Lazarus, Dave Gahan. All right, I got to go. I'm way over today. It was a little verbose. It must have been the Gemini moon. Join us over on 15 Minutes where we continue the conversation. Link in the description, and hopefully one of my guys put the link in chat. And come on over, and we'll get into it. What am I talking about today? What am I talking about today? I think I have a bit of a placeholder with the tornadoes, but well, we never know where we go. But it's always, at the very least, intriguing. All right, we'll see you over there. God bless. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and we'll be back here tomorrow with the Friday Forecast. Bye for now.